And welcome to my short presentation on teacher immediacy, aggression, and student outcomes. I'd like to start off with, have you ever noticed when you see a little child playing, like a toddler, they're just so natural, they love to learn, they're curious. It's simply a beautiful thing to see. And this is natural of all children. They just love to learn. It's ingrained in them. So what happens between then and they grow up and they go to school? Why do they stop loving learning? So the answer has to be there's something happens. It's not that they stopped loving learning. It's they went to be educated. So there's something wrong, I think, in the education system itself and of course with some of our teachers. It takes a lot to put out a spark of curiosity and love of learning in a child. But that's simply the same thing that happened to me when my parents sent me at 6 years old to a Catholic private school. I grew up Irish Catholic, and this was the thing to do. I hope no one that's watching this is going to be offended, because it's nothing against the religion. It's just something that happened to me personally. And I went to this school, and as soon as I went into the school, I felt something was wrong. I knew it wasn't a place I wanted to be. The teachers were verbally aggressive towards the children. They were also non-verbally aggressive. Punishments were severe. Punishments ran from corporal punishment to humiliation tactics, with humiliation tactics being pretty much the choice one that they used the most. If you take a 6-year-old, they make a little mistake. I'm not even sure what a 6-year-old could do to deserve being put up in front of a class and humiliated, and just basically had their whole little self-esteem just like attacked in front of the whole class. You're kind of shy at that age. It's a horrible thing to see. If it's not happening to you, it's a horrible thing to witness, trust me. So I knew I didn't like that school. I didn't want to be there, but I had to go. So my way of getting away was I learned to daydream. I daydreamed my way kind of through elementary school, I think. By the time I got into 7th grade, my dad died and we moved, so I was taken out of that school. So you figure I was there for a good almost 7 years, where they had this ability to abuse me in many ways. And it stayed with me most of my life. I thought I hated school my whole life. I thought I hated school, I hated learning, but I didn't. What I hated was that school and the tactics that they used. I don't know why they started such harsh tactics on like a 6-year-old, but I guess they figured that was one way to get a child in control, where it would be easier to control them later when they were in when they were in 6th or 7th grade. So Infante, 1987, lists teacher aggressive tactics and behaviors as insults, ridicule, threats, attacks on students' characters, attacks on students' self-esteem and confidence, which is all the things that happened to me. He also states profanity, which was not really used at that school. I know I woke up every day with a knot in my stomach. I did not ever want to go back to school. No one should have to live with such stress, but these kind of tactics cause children to be full of stress. By the time a child's in middle school, they're disengaged, they suffer from stress, and they're just simply bored with school. Student motivation is a drive that pushes them to succeed. Motivation is positively associated with teacher immediacy, which in turn is associated with cognitive and effective learning. Motivation is both a trait and a state. As a trait, it's fixed and stable, and as a state, it's basically easy, open to influences. And that's where a teacher comes in. That's just where a teacher can actually motivate a student. They can motivate a student through stories, humor, through class activities, and just bring a little excitement into the room so children are not bored, or not children, but students in general. They can get to a student's level and find out things that interest them, and bring up stories that they may have read about in the news or something, bring it up and have like little discussions about this. This is one way to get students motivated, and when you get them motivated, they want to go to school, they like school. Now, verbal and nonverbal immediacy by teachers brings students closer through warmth and friendliness. Nonverbal immediacy is demonstrated through the teacher's eye contact, relaxed body movements, touching, warm language, smiling, of course. Smiling is very important. And verbal immediacy is shown through the use of we or us rather than I or you. Verbal messages such as, tell me more, or, you know, I understand what you mean. Effective teachers have students that like learning, they listen more, and they just want to come to school more. There's simply a wealth of knowledge out there on teacher immediacy behaviors, because effective teachers that focus on positive messages are linked to increased student learning, that's what we want. Sir Ken Robbins in 2013 told a story that I found very interesting, and it ties into what we're talking about. And he talks about a place in California called Death Valley. Well, of course, we all know Death Valley. We studied about it when we were young in school. And Death Valley is one of the driest and hottest places in North America. Nothing grows there. Nothing grows there because it simply doesn't rain there. But in the winter of 2004, it did rain there. And it rained 7 inches. 7 inches in a very short span of time. And so in the spring of 2005, something really crazy happened. The floor of Death Valley was just covered with flowers. And they were there for a while. Of course, it was probably just a short while. But it was just a phenomenon to see, I can imagine. So what this tells us is Death Valley isn't dead. It's simply dormant. It's dormant, and right beneath the surface there are seeds of possibility waiting for the right condition. When conditions are right, life is inevitable. It happens all the time. When you change the conditions, give students a sense of possibility, value relationships between teachers and learners, it just becomes the best you can do. Education is a human process, and it's our job to provide those conditions to help students flourish. I want to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to my short presentation. I wish you all luck in your presentations and in the future. God bless.